I'm not talking about these little mountains. I'm talking about this right here. Is that the ice wall?
Giants, real, literal giants.
Conspiracy starts to get really interesting. So the Grand Canyon has 6 no-fly zones. And also you have parts of the canyon which you can't explore without executive supervision.
They recovered these giants, a lot of times red-haired giants. Guys, that Bigfoot is explained in the Bible, and we see that this genetic contamination, once again, the Bible is proven by not only archaeological finds, but by all of the genetic evidence. We do see this trait appearing in the human race still today, popping up in the human gene pool. Now we call the genetic disorder hypertrichosis.
Or homo illustrious, lichens, or werewolves. If you look to the right, you'll see the word patar. Some of you might call it Peter. Below is the word dragente.
You better lock in and buckle up, bucko! Because you're in for another creepy and scary TikTok reaction video. You want to be careful on these creepy and scary, disturbing, weird and strange videos and TikToks, because they might just change your whole reality and keep you up the entire night. If you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button. And remember, these videos are for entertainment purposes only. It is up to us to distinguish fact from fiction and do our own research on everything. And always remember, keep your head on a straight swivel. Let's dive in.
According to ancient Aztec codices and oral tradition, Teotihuacan was established by the god Quetzalcoatl, who brought with him the knowledge of civilization and gold mining. Quetzalcoatl built 3 pyramids at Teotihuacan: the pyramids of the Moon, Sun, and Temple of Quetzalcoatl, which were modeled on the Giza pyramids. In addition, his arrival appears to coincide with the arrival of the Olmecs in ancient Mesoamerica. Teotihuacan's connection to ancient Egypt would not only explain the pyramids at Teotihuacan, but also the presence of the African Olmecs in the region. After the Anunnaki god Marduk's defeat at Babel, he took over the realm of Egypt and displaced Anunnaki god Thoth as Lord of Egypt. In response, the Anunnaki god Thoth migrated to the Mesoamerican region, where he settled at Teotihuacan. The reasons for Teotihuacan's decline and eventual collapse are unknown, but by 750 AD, the city had been abandoned. However, if the ancient Aztec codices are to be believed, then the city was destroyed by a great deluge during the era of the 4th sun. The decline of Teotihuacan would pave the way for the rise of the next great empire of Mesoamerica, the Aztecs. Using the ancient astronaut hypothesis, the origin story of the Aztec can be traced to ancient Sumer, more particularly to the lost generation of Cain referred to in Genesis of the Hebrew Bible. According to Genesis, Cain was banished from the presence of the Lord and sent to dwell in the land of Nod, east of Eden. We are also further told that Cain and his wife conceived and bore a son called Enoch, and that Cain built a city and called the city by the name of his son Enoch. The Aztec origin story of wandering in the wilderness until they found a promised location to build a city is similar to the Exodus story in the Hebrew Bible and the myth of Etana in the Sumerian texts. Tenochtitlan was a large city just like Teotihuacan, located about 30 miles to the south. Things get even more interesting if one considers that the name of the Aztec city Tenochtitlan actually contains the word Enoch. Furthermore, the Aztec calendar suggests that the era of the Aztec was that of the 5th sun following a previous 4th sun of the black-headed peoples that had been destroyed by a great deluge. This is quite intriguing since the Sumerians referred to themselves as the black-headed peoples. In addition, the Aztec creation myths bore a close resemblance to the Sumerian creation story, in which man was fashioned out of clay mixed with the blood of a god. The role played by the Sumerian male and female deities Enki and Ninti is mirrored in the Aztec myth, which also depicts the creation of man by the joint effort of a male and female deity, by mixing clay with the blood of a god. Once all these similarities are taken into account, there is also the further possibility the Sumerian connection may potentially resolve the enigma of the Mark of Cain. In this respect, the Mark of Cain may be the lack of facial hair, a genetic trait possessed by the Amerindians of Mesoamerica, as the descendants of Cain. When all these correlations are drawn together, ancient astronaut theorists contend that they provide a basis for connecting Tenochtitlan to the alien Anunnaki gods of Mesopotamia.
I believe the fallen angels are the ones who built these gods. So whenever you hear Naki, I translate them to fallen angels.
Yo, check it out, Reflection. Look at the bottom of your hands. Look at the bottom of your feet. Why are they different colors than the rest of your body? Have you ever asked yourself this question? If you haven't asked this question, I'm about to let you know why. Like the most honorable prophet, Eliyahu the Christ, teaches us, the bottom of your hands are like battery nodes. If you see right here and you look at these batteries, they have a positive side and a negative side. These are called nodes, N-O-D-E-S. And like my chi teaches us, your hands and the bottom of your feet don't have melanin or pigment in them because they're energy centers. They're like chakras for electrical currents to flow through. Your body, the human avatar, emits a positive charge, protons. Sun, that positive charge, it's emitting protons. You're receiving an amount of protons from the sun all day. You're getting charged up all day. Well, in order for you to be in balance and in harmony, the earth needs to neutralize the positive charges that you're receiving from the sun. What's happening is on sight of you touching the earth with your hands and your feet, it's called grounding. The earth starts to immediately send you electrons, negative charges. And this balances out the free radicals, which are excessive protons that have at least one unpaired electron. This balances out the excessive charge that's going through your body and synchronizes the brain, simultaneously your body. It also is going to relieve inflammation and excess mucus from your body, which causes dis-ease and imbalances. We live in a reality where we live backwards. If you turn the word lived around, it will spell devil, right? Because the evil one is a spirit that wants to live against nature. Babylon, right? The 7 deadly sins. We live in a culture where we wear shoes, rubber and wood on the bottom of our feet, which insulates and disconnects us from the earth. Why would we disconnect ourselves from the earth? Like my chief teaches us, our connection to the earth is our connection to the universe, to the all, to Allah, to God, to the source. You want to always stay in constant communion with your source so that you can be getting the correct light codes and software updates so that you can know what's going on. Animals got something called the mechanoreceptor or magnetoreception. It's a sixth sense. Humans have this as well. It's called intuition. You're not going to be able to stay in tune with your instincts or your intuition if you don't connect to the motherboard. The earth is a feminine energy. Earth in astrology is a feminine principle. It's a feminine element. You need to stay in tune and connected to the intuition so that you know what's to come. Not to mention, it's relieving stress from your being and calming down your nervous system. The earth wants to nurture you, Reflection. Go stand on the earth. Go earth. Reflect the light from our cheek, man. Free 3. Peace to the gods.
Eat the meat and spit out the bones. Go outside, walk barefooted. Hug a tree.
What about the fourth dimension? Let's take this three-dimensional cube and project it, carry it through a fourth physical dimension. Not that way, not that way, not that way, but at right angles to those three directions. I can't show you what direction that is, but imagine that there is a fourth physical dimension. In that case, we would generate a four-dimensional hypercube, which is also called a tesseract. I cannot show you a tesseract because I and you are trapped in 3 dimensions. But what I can show you is the shadow in 3 dimensions of a 4-dimensional hypercube or tesseract. This is it. And you can see it's 2 nested cubes, all the vertices connected by lines. And now the real tesseract in 4 dimensions would have all the lines of equal length and all the angles right. What about the 4th dimension?
Let's talk about this ASAP. There's been a massive amount of conspiracy talk about the Grand Canyon being the actual path to Africa. And what's crazy is I just took a trip to Las Vegas. Y'all see I haven't even been on the app. When we flew over the Grand Canyon, I had that same exact thought. Then I got on TikTok and I seen this.
These might be the
First you had Pangea. Now if you zoom in on the map, you see the United States, right? And then you see Africa right next to it. North America, Africa. This goes right along with me and my brother's conspiracy theory that all the Area 51s across the globe were connected in Pangea, and when we separated, those portals allow everything to connect between us and the Earth and dimensional travel. Like the Grand Canyon, pyramids in Egypt, Stonehenge, I mean all these places with these unique locations and meanings. It's looking like the Grand Canyon just may be part of that. Conspiracy starts to get really interesting. So the Grand Canyon has 6 no-fly zones. And also you have parts of the canyon which you can't explore without executive supervision. I think this may be because they're hiding ancient history. 1909, G.E. Kincaid went on a grand exploration through the Colorado River, where he came across and discovered caves such as the one behind me. They're not natural caves, they were hard carved caves. Carr said that this cave alone contained mummies, hieroglyphic writings all throughout the caves, war weapons, and copper instruments that were sharp as steel. Craziest thing about it is that he said these caves could hold up to 50,000 people. So you can only imagine how advanced this cave actually was, especially for the time period he discovered it in 1909. But hey, it just might be a coincidence or just a conspiracy or something. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments about the Grand Canyon.
They are definitely not telling us everything about the Grand Canyon. We already know that. But the fact that it can hold 50,000 people in one little chamber inside the Grand Canyon, I would love to see some of those artifacts.
1912, they put an expedition together. Up they went to the Mogollon Rim, and they found these giant fossilized, mummified persons. They packed them in the panniers on the mules. When they got to Pumpkin Flat, just below where is now the Salt River Dam, all of it had turned to, the bones had turned actually to just shads and whatever. When they got back to ASU, they put them in boxes, put them in the basement of ASU, and they sat there until the mid-40s. Then they threw them away because they didn't know what it was.
So they didn't catalog where they was found?
No. Oh, yes. I believe ASU has that information. I believe ASU has that fully cataloged because it's part of Arizona history. In 1912, they put an expedition together.
Arizona Giants, you say? Let's dive in. Activate submersible. They think they can hide these damn Arizona Giants? Not on my damn watch.
Okay, people, check this out. So yesterday, I was sitting on the bottom of this mountain right here, and it sounded like a door shut, or like if you ever heard an aluminum industrial door just bong, like it rings after it shuts. And it scared me, because I was just sitting right here. But if you look up, let me see if I can zoom in. I can't zoom in. But that's a door right there. I'm thinking that's a door, man. Now, I'm sure you've seen all these videos where they find the doors on the side of the mountain. But I swear to God, I heard something shut. When I looked up, I was looking at that. And I'm looking at it, and it looks like a door to me. So my only inclination is to climb back up there and check it out. Let's do it. It's April 8th, people. It's April 8th, the end of the world. And there's your door. This is the last door video I'm going to be doing. I won't be coming up here no more. Okay, people. If you want to find the door, find the rock. See that sign? Go all the way up. Find the rock. You find the rock with that sign on it. You find the rock with this sign. And it'll lead you all the way up to the door. That's all I gotta say. Peace, your older homie, Mr. Black, the South Mountain guy.
It kind of does resemble a door. It kind of does. But who's going to take a jackhammer and open it? The comments are disrespectful. They say bro's hallucinating from heat exhaustion.
Stone is the most prevalent feature in this impressive national park. It is located in the state of Arizona. The park lies south of a reservation that accommodates Navajo Indians. This region owes its name to the park's main attraction, a rare and natural phenomenon that has transformed wood into stone. These long rocks are reminiscent of fallen trees. In fact, they are ancient formations of stone. But how could wood possibly be turned into stone? Long ago, this landscape was covered by a dense forest. Mighty rivers cut across the terrain. Water caused by heavy flooding forced dead trees to float to a low-lying swampland. In the deep quagmire of the swamp, and having in effect been hermetically sealed, the trees were subsequently covered by layers of sediment. Thus, their further decomposition was halted. Mud, sand, and volcanic ash settled above the trees that gradually absorbed minerals from the surrounding moisture. Thus, hundreds of fossil trunks developed that today are scattered across the prairie. The largest examples of fossilized wood in the national park indicate that in prehistoric times, many of the trees grew to a height of 60 meters.
In the right situation, wood can be turned into stone. And the narrative that you just listened to is how the giant tree stumps from the Bible were turned to stone. When God flooded the earth, they petrified those stumps, and they took in minerals, and they turned into crystal, petrified, just like you've seen the trees do in the video that you just watched. So now that you understand how the stumps turned to stone, let's talk about where did the trees go that were cut down? Because those giant trees had to go somewhere, right?
Found part 2. It wasn't easy, but I found it, y'all. Lock in and buckle up. If you haven't already, pull out your phone. If you're watching this on your TV, find me, hit that like button, and share this on your Facebook, all socials if you got it.
Of the rock, or Rockefellers, were also known as the fallen ones, or those who caused to fall. They, along with the silica pillars, were erased from our history as the great libraries of the world were looted and destroyed. But our memories are too strong, and the stories have survived the test of time. They come to us in myths and legends, fairy tales and fiction. Jack and the Beanstalk, Paul Bunyan, the Tower of Babel, and many, many more reveal to us the secrets that we have kept from ourselves. You see, we've left ourselves clues, little hints to a forgotten past, breadcrumbs to help us remember our ancient oblivion.
The trees floated into an area, a low bed area, and rested there, and did not decompose right. They were still soaked in water and taking in minerals. they turned to stone. Well, all the mountain ridges that you've seen in your life that you think are mountains, those aren't mountains at all. That's why they're in straight line ridges, because those are the trees that floated off and settled wherever they settled at, like the Rocky Mountains. It's not really the Rocky Mountains. It's just some of the big trees that settled there. That's why you have mountains in certain places, not all over. You know, not all over straight across the country all the way. It's just in certain spots of countries. And that's where those trees settled at. And what you think are mountains, those are the giant trees that were cut down by the Watchers, the Holy Ones, just before the flood. Just before the flood, they were cut down. And that's why they drifted off from the stumps that you see today. That's why you don't see the tree laying beside the stump, because they floated away and settled as the oceans receded.
The fellers of the rock, or rock fellers.
Interesting. Drop your comments below. If those giant trees float, you know, it makes sense. The hills have eyes. Tell me what you guys see. Heat destroyed Amorite before them, whose height was like the height of cedars. Other sons. Damn, is that a giant human laying down?
So that will be our next section. That is number 3, giants, real, literal giants. I know, we've all sort of chalked up the David and Goliath story to a fairy tale, sort of like Jack and the Beanstalk, but nothing could be further from the truth. There's so much archaeological evidence that these giant races recorded in the Bible are literal. Here's just a couple verses. I'm going to sprinkle them throughout. You can read them on your own. You can pause it if you need to. Numbers 13, 31 through 33, Deuteronomy 2, 20 through 22, and 1 Chronicles 28, 20 and then 8. And of course, we all know Genesis 6 is kind of the popular one. Now lately, Timothy Alberino, he's done some excellent research on this subject. He went to Sardinia, Italy, and he found that all of the locals talked about these giant human bones. They were buried everywhere. They would find them in their yards when they planted gardens or when they were building buildings or whatever. And the consistent story is that they were told to contact the Vatican, and the Vatican would come and retrieve the bones, or they would even send excavating equipment if there were large burial grounds, and they would cover it up with mounds of dirt, and they would, build walls around it, pave around it. If they couldn't retrieve them all, they actively tried to cover them up. And we see the same exact things in the Americas. With the Smithsonian, there were so many of the miners during the 1800s, early 1900s that recovered these giants, a lot of time red-haired giants, and they'd find them in caves and caverns and catacombs when they were mining, and they would turn them over to the authorities, and they would, once the Smithsonian got a hold of them, they could never find them anymore. Family members have tried to trace them. They can't get any information. So they've been secreting the evidence of these giant humans, giant humanoids. They've been secreting all this away somewhere in a vault. The Vatican, just like during the Crusades, they took all the records from these Native Americans and the Mayans, and everywhere they went, and they burned them or they hauled them off to their little archives and have kept this version of world history from us. And so I don't know why people have such a hard time believing in humanoid giants when we see dinosaur bones. We see that we can accept the fact that giant reptiles pretty much dominated the earth at one time, but we have this problem for some reason with the giant humanoids. But it's true. It's all true. Yeah, and before the invention of the internet and all of this social media, it was really easy for the ruling class, the powers that be, to control our paradigm, tell us what to believe, spoon feed us information. Take like Stonehenge, for example. It's supposed to be such a mystery, but the records left by the Britons say that it was called the Giants' Dance because these giants, these titans, that was their altar. They sacrificed animals and people on it to their ancestral god. And we see that in every culture on planet Earth, these records of their ancestral gods that we talked about earlier, the fallen interdimensionals that mated with humans. And archaeologists found a trench of bone, giants. So that will be our next set. Giant. They sacrificed animals and people on it to their ancestral god. And we see that in every culture on planet Earth, these records of their ancestral gods that we talked about earlier, the fallen interdimensionals that mated with humans. And archaeologists found a trench of bones all around Stonehenge, so it's confirmed with archaeological finds. And the records from that region say that there was a 12-foot giant called Gog Magog that resided in Britain after the fall of Troy. And that completely supports the biblical account of this family line. The Bible actually names them, that family, that tribe, Gog and Magog. The verses are Ezekiel 38, 2 and 3, and Genesis 10, 2. Also, Revelation 20, verses 7 and 8. Now, that's something that talks about this remnant tribe of giants will be back in the end times to be in players, which ties back into this UFO thing we're talking about, these hybrid races, the remnants of these hybrid races that have gone underground and off-planet and things like that. Tons of UFO encounters where the witnesses report giants. They say that giants, not little green men, giants. Two examples are in January of 1996, Herzl Constantini, the chief of security, witnessed an alien craft in his field. He reported a humanoid to be approximately 11 feet tall and 5 feet wide, weighing probably 2 tons. The footprints were pressed into the earth up to 14 inches deep. Another one in Russia, in September of 1989, over 20 unrelated witnesses report that three 9-foot-tall giants stepped out of a vehicle that landed in a park in clear view. There were police chiefs, a metal worker, a janitor, school children, lots and lots of witnesses. So these things are true. And we see it in the human gene pool now. We call it acromegaly, and so we see it still pops up in the human gene pool. And this is all just part of that same genetic contamination, that original sin that the Bible talks about that has been passed down through all the generations of humanity. It's this contamination of the human gene. They sacrificed animals and people on it to their ancestral god. Right into number 2, which is 6 fingers and 6 toes. Yep, the Bible explains it. It explains where this polydactyl genetic disorder comes from. The verses, I'll just put them on the screen. You can pause it and read it if you want. Just a couple of them are 1 Chronicles 26. That Chronicles is what it sounds like. It's the chronology of the ethnicities. And, there are books of the Bible that's all they are. The ones we skip over that are so-and-so begot so-and-so, begot so-and-so, begot so-and-so. It's the record of all the genealogies, the ethnicities as they spread out over the globe. You guys should really read this book. It's fascinating. Another verse is 2 Samuel 21:20. And again, we see polydactyl is a trait that pops up in the human gene pool even today. Some people say Oprah has 6 toes, Halle Berry, Michelle Obama, things like that. You can see all that kind of stuff online. I don't know these people personally, so I can't attest to whether that's true or not. But certainly there are lots and lots of humans. The picture, Alfonseco, he has 6 fingers. I even have people, 2nd, 3rd, 4th cousins in my family line that have had the 6 fingers.
There's a girl at my school. She had a 6 finger that she was growing, and she had it surgically removed. So, yeah, I've seen that firsthand. I can testify.
There's different genetic traits like that from the Gentile bloodlines. Right into number 2, which is 6 fingers and 6 toes. You guessed it, it's Bigfoot. Bigfoot is in the Bible. They are recorded as being the descendants of Esau, the tribes of Edom. The verses for that are Genesis 25, 23 through 24. That talks about the birth of Esau and how he was completely covered in red hair. Genesis 27:11. That's Jacob asking his mother Rebekah, "Why is my brother a hairy man and I'm a smooth-skinned man?" Genesis 27:16 is where Jacob was trying to deceive his father into thinking he's Esau to get the blessing. And his mother, Rebecca, helped him, and she covered his arms and the back of his neck, everywhere that his blind father, his father was old and blind, everywhere that his father would touch him in goat hair, in goat skin, so that when his father touched him, he would think he was a hair-covered man. And these tribes throughout ancient history were always at war. It says that they were driven off from the face of the earth and went underground to live in the catacombs and the underground cities. It says that they were forced into the mountain range. We hear again and again the mountains of Esau, the mountains of Esau. So it's no coincidence that almost all of the names that the Native Americans have for Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, all these different names are areas all along the mountain ranges of America. Of course, you know, we have the Yowie in Australia, we have the abominable snowman in Russia. So these genetic abominations are recorded in the Bible, and it says that most of these tribes were wiped out through war and through the floods and things like that. But there are still remnants, and we still see them today. People see them today coming to the surface and coming out there. The Bible records them as being great hunters and game eaters and things of that nature, and so do all of the accounts of the Native Americans and such. So that's the big surprise, that Bigfoot is explained in the Bible, and we see that this genetic contamination, once again, the Bible is proven by not only archaeological finds, but by all of the genetic evidence. We do see this trait appearing in the human race still today, popping up in the human gene pool. Now we call the genetic disorder hypertrichosis. And in the older days, you would see these people would be in the circuses and things like that. Nowadays, you still see them. They are on the internet, on the health sites and things like that. You can see pictures of this disorder. But this comes from the bloodline of Esau and the tribes of Edom. So that's it. I guess what I'm trying to say, the bottom line is that there are only mysteries, there are only anomalies because we live in a false worldview. Because the people in the know have created this fake revisionist history, this paradigm that we live in. But the truth is that there aren't any mysteries, folks. There's only people who can't handle the truth. This Bible is a fascinating book, and it has the answers.
And on that coins video that we dug off into hairy people too, I'm gonna try to find some of those clips and play them right after this because it's lining up. We gotta check it out.
Did the pale, hairy wild man from Europe conquer America and the world? Check out this coin. This is a wild man. When I look at the image, it reminds me of the green giant. This in particular wild man on this coin has tried to come down your chimney for over 100 years. Here is Santa, the last wild man. How does this connect to America being destroyed? It reads, however, far from being the offshoot of St. Nicholas of Turkey, Santa Claus is the last of a long line of what scholars call wild men, who were worshipped in ancient European fertility rites and came to America through Pennsylvania's Germans. It said ancient fertility rites. This means somebody mingled with the wild man, and the German brought the bloodline to America. Family. Black people do birth white people, but we don't birth hairy, pale wild men. Check out this illustration. These are Homo illustres, lichens, or werewolves. If you look to the right, you'll see the word patar. Some of you might call it Peter. Below is the word dragente. The wild man is the dragon, dragente. The dragon that you read about in Revelations is the wild man. Do you see the tall, hairy man spewing fire and souls out of his mouth? Your ministers don't know this knowledge. Did you notice at the bottom of the picture it said the Pope as the wild man? Do you see the face on the back of the wild man, dragente, dragon? Let me break it down. The priest is Santa, the wild man. He was the first wild man to become a priest. The book reads, when Santa was a shaman, the wild man is a priest, and anyone bloodline to it is considered to be a dragente, a dragon or devil. Did you notice the kids in the basket and the demon driving the car? The wild man priests are demonic, and they steal and sacrifice our children. Family, this is not a racist picture. This is Santa, the first wild man to become a priest, and the black demon, not a black man. Let me show you something. It reads, the huge dragon, the ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceived the world. The huge dragon, the ancient serpent, is the tall wild man called Dragente, dragon. Family, do you see how the Dragente's appearance changed from green to white? The wild man is the serpent through DNA manipulation. It reads, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceived the world. The wild man is called Dragente. The dragon is called the devil. Do you see the wild man Dragente devil dressing like white people, deceiving the world? Drop a like, friend up for the next one. It's even deeper. What's good, family? Did the alien gods of the Bible destroy first America? Check out this coin. There's a flying ship that's held up by two cupids hovering over a city. Cupids are not normally shown next to flying ships. They are shown next to angels. On the back of the coin, it shows an angel pointing at a man with a glow around his head. Family, we were taught this was divine, but truly this is an alien choosing a hybrid human being as king. Here is another angel alien with wings coming out of a flying ship. They are not divine. They need technology to travel and to fight. These beings do not come in peace. They are using priests, kings, and governments to convince you they are divine and our creator. Check out this coin. It says US 500 and the date says J783. Family, is it possible America existed in 783? If we want the answer, we need to break down the letter J. It reads, until the year 1524, there was no letter J in the alphabet. Here is the problem with the J date. Justinian I, Roman Emperor, 527-565. His name carries the J 1,000 years before 1524. His name was spelled with an I 1,000 years before the 1500s. They added 1,000 years. Family, do you think 1,000 years added to the calendar was the only problem? Is this Jesus? Or is this Justin? Whitewash. What does the J stand for on the coin? Some say Jesus, but here's the truth. It stands for Justin. His name is on the coin, Justitia. This coin says I-736. It is also Justin's name before they used the J. Here is the real question. Did Rome rule first America in 783? Was Rome originally in America or Italy? These entities in these ships also destroyed Rome with water, possibly around the late 400s. Here are the pillars of Rome buried in.
I think these are cherubim. Look at the eyes. You see multiple eyes around them. That's what I think.
Here are the pillars of Rome buried in mud. This created event that we call the mud flood affected the world.
Astronauts today saying, I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond, but, the technology to do that, we don't have it anymore, and it's a painful process to build it back again. And all of a sudden, they have this big race to try to figure out how to deal with radiation. And, we're like, hello? How come you don't just put on the same jumpsuits and get in the same tin cans you did 50 years ago?
You need to check out, search "A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon." It's very eye-opening, to say the least.
I don't know the distance to the Van Allen radiation belt, and if we did, it wasn't a problem. If we were going to encounter it, then we would have had to build the spacecraft and the spacesuit to not give humans a problem. You don't just build something and hope it works. You study to see what the threats are, the environment is, and then you say, how thick do I have to make the metal on the spacecraft so that going through this kind of radiation or these kind of meteoroids, it won't get hurt. And then we build it that way.
The belts are 1,000 miles to 25,000 miles above the Earth.
We went right out through them.
No effects on your cells.
Didn't even know it. I don't think anybody, well, maybe somebody said you went through the radiation belt, but we didn't feel it inside, and we didn't get any, added radiation.
And then the United States and Russia engage in a dig race and a missile race before the space race. The dig race was the United States and Russia immediately start trying to figure out how deep is the Earth? Like, how far deep can we drill? And the United States gave up early, and the official story is we ran out of funding. Well, yeah, the reason they ran out of funding is because they shifted it off from the dig race into the space race and into Apollo and all that stuff. And the deepest anyone has ever dug into this Earth is less than 8 miles. Or 8 miles, that's as deep as not even. So the dig race. Then the missile race. And in the missile race, the United States and Russia both start launching high-altitude nuclear bombs into the sky, and we called it Operation Fishbowl. Yeah. And if you just Google that, Operation Fishbowl, and watch the archive footage of this, it looks very much like they're hitting something up there. And Fishbowl was part of a larger project called Project Dominic. And I was doing a Nephilim conference, actually, to talk about giants and hybrids and stuff in Lubbock, Texas. And Pastor Dan Pressman, we're at his church. He pulls me aside at one point and says, "Yeah, do you know what the name Dominic means?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Look it up." The word Dominic means of the Lord. So we literally called our side of the missile race the Project Fishbowl of the Lord. The activity of both superpowers is exactly this type of activity any human being would engage in if you found out you were living in a cage. Right. If you all of a sudden found out under the dome, right? I live in the Colony, Texas. The colony's under a dome. If the Colony, Texas suddenly realized we were under a dome, just like in the TV series, the first thing you're going to try to do is figure out the boundaries. Yeah. How do I get out of this thing? How deep does it go? How high does it go? Where are the edges? That's exactly what we did. Operation Deep Freeze, finding the edges. Operation Dig, whatever you want to call it, I forgot what the actual official name was. They're trying to figure out how deep this, and then Operation Fishbowl, how high does this thing go? And then the United States and Russia engage in the space race. Coincidentally, several decades later, people like the Netherlands decide to test the moon rocks that were given to them by the astronauts and find out that it's petrified wood. What achievement can you point to in human history where something new was created? All of a sudden, that was a one-off. Wright brothers flew. Okay, that's it. Cool. Yeah. Let's everybody get a ride on their plane. No, everybody starts making airplanes, right? Right. Pick automobiles, anything. Once it was done the first time, it was only improved upon thereafter, except for the moon landing. And
Operation Deep Freeze? You gotta type it in.
This is Antarctica, nearly 6 million square miles of ice-covered wasteland, larger than the United States and Europe combined. Less than 1/3 of this great continent has been explored. Previous expeditions have discovered indications of coal, iron, and other minerals in this last frontier. Its mean elevation is 6,000 feet, but some of its mountain peaks rise above 15,000 feet. It is the highest and coldest continent in the world. In Antarctica, scientists hope to find the answers to many questions, which will unlock secrets of the universe. The International Geophysical Year is a combined effort of scientists of more than 60 nations to gain knowledge of the Earth and related phenomena by worldwide simultaneous observation. One of the most extensive of all International Geophysical Year investigations is taking place in the Antarctic regions, with 11 nations participating. In an effort to help find answers to these questions, the United States Antarctic Programs was conceived and by direction of the President of the United States, Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, veteran polar explorer, was named officer in charge. The Navy was assigned the task of logistic support for the program. Task Force 43 was organized under Commander-in-Chief Atlantic Fleet to implement the operation, which was a...
That's on Wernher von Braun's tombstone. He's one of the founding Project Paperclip, bigwigs in the rocket program. Byrd, first recognized for his work in the North and exposing all this stuff about inner Earth, then goes to the South in Operation High Jump. Okay, so why do they call it High Jump? Well, just Google coastline of Antarctica, and you will see lots and lots of pictures of 200 and 300 foot ice walls that you are confronted with when you go to Antarctica. So Operation High Jump. When you get there, you got to jump over this 300 foot ice wall. That's interesting. And then Admiral Byrd gets on TV and tells the world about all these amazing resources and, natural resources and things that are down there.
Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous...
So there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Well, Admiral, do you hope to see that?
I do.
So all these countries start sending people down there, and we have Operation Deep Freeze, and that's like in mid-50s, 56, I think, somewhere in that time frame. Anyway, all these nations go down there, and then all of a sudden they have this need for the International Geophysical Year. Something new. There's the International Geophysical Year. And oh, by the way, we need an Antarctic treaty. This is the only nation that can't be claimed by any country as theirs. So they say, we need an international treaty, the Antarctic Treaty. Look up that, and you'll see that these nations drew up this contract, and it starts going into effect between like 1958 into like 1961, I think. And then the first thing the United States and Russia do after this, the United States creates DARPA. DARPA is created in 1958, the same year that NASA's created. Right? So you got NASA and DARPA created the same year, 1958, that they all of a sudden, everybody leaves Antarctica. We need a treaty. And then the United States and Russia engage in a dig race and a missile race before the space race.
Alright, it says massive ice wall filled during the 1957 Operation Deep Freeze. They have no sound.
Operation Deep Freeze. This is just an expansion of High Jump. 1955 Operation Deep Freeze. This is just an expansion of High Jump, where more research bases are added to Antarctica. Fast forward a little more, 1958. NASA is established, followed by the proposal of the Antarctic Treaty in 1959, and the implementation of it in 1961. The treaty basically puts Antarctica off limits to civilians, with the exception of guided tours that are carefully supervised. In 1962, Operation Fishbowl takes place. Now this is where people start thinking that they found the firmament or dome during Operation High Jump or Operation Deep Freeze, because for some reason, they started firing straight up as if trying to mess with the firmament somehow. And not to mention the name of the project, Fishbowl, easily symbolic for the enclosed nature of our world. 1955, Operation Deep Freeze.
Check out this video from Operation Deep Freeze, released in 1957, of what I think is a plane flying past a set of ranges right outside the ocean, right before our massive ice wall, or barrier, from the rest of our realm. You can notice at the top left of the corner, the camera is panning so you can see that this is one solid piece of ice. I just don't think it could be anything else. Let me know what you think in the comments or follow Question Antiquity for more. Check out this video from Oppie Anything Else.
Guys, look carefully. I didn't catch it the first time, but look. Is that a massive ice wall? I'm not talking about these little mountains. I'm talking about this right here. Is that the ice wall? Drop in the comments below.
Regular Nightus.
Guys, that's all I have for today's video. If you made it this far, put giants. Giants is the code word. If you put giants, that lets me know you're real. You made it all the way through, and I appreciate, love you guys. And it's just another one bites the dust. You know, we dropping these boys daily. If you're new around here, I do these daily. I got plenty other videos you can go back and watch. Just look at the thumbnail and see what sounds interesting to you. The Apocrypha, giants, UFOs, so many aliens, so many different crazy theories that will make your head spin. So it's just interesting. And yeah, guys, gonna get me something to eat. Get this first I'm gonna chop this video up, get me something to eat, and take a nap, go to sleep, man. Get ready to do it again. The dark waters continue, man. I need to get my energy back for these dark waters, man. But I love you guys. I'm gonna see y'all the next one. Peace. God bless.